probably said it because I ramble. I apologize. But
No, you're good.
uh, the greatest Star Wars film, not my favorite, but I think the greatest Star Wars film that has been made. I think greatest sci-fi fantasy, or what has someone called it before? Western space soap opera. I've heard that a couple times.
Okay.
Best of all time. Yeah. I just, again, going back to the emotions in that film and the lightsaber duel we get from that, it just, I think if anyone was to watch one Star Wars film, I think it should be this one.
That's fair. So, if you don't mind me asking, you said this movie is the best, but you say Revenge of the Sith, episode 3, is your favorite. How do you come to that distinction?
I know, it's
And
weird.
and I was curious. I want to know like what makes episode 3 your favorite, and in the same breath still call this the best. I guess I'm just curious.
Yes, good question. I think taking into consideration most people's opinion too, there's a lot of people that don't like the prequels. I love the prequels. Do I love them more than the original trilogy? I don't know, but I feel like I grew up with both. But Attack of the Clones, or excuse me, Revenge of the Sith is where everything just, really came together in the story. And you could see just everything feel like happened real time and everything made sense now, especially if you watched it a couple times and got it all in. So that's why it's my favorite. And all the stuff between Anakin and Obi-Wan between them throughout the film. That's why it's my favorite. But there's a lot of stuff, reasons why people don't like it, which I recognize, which non-real sets, which I don't know how you feel about that, but I wish there would have been less CGI in the prequels.
I agree.
I recognize that I don't want to call it a flaw because George Lucas did with that stuff what no one done before, but I did want a little more reality. It was hard for the actors to act in those big blue and green screen rooms. They talked about that, and you can see that in the film. But again, the stories reading is my favorite. And then what we've been talking about today with episode 5, the reason I think it's the best is because just all the filmmaking points, everything about it is just better, I think. And I feel bad saying that on Lucas, but it was just everything was put together so well and the power was put in the right spots for that movie.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's a pretty good point. I can't say that episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, is my absolute favorite Star Wars movie. But I still understand where you're coming from. I mean, there's still some pretty good moments in that movie. It's probably the best of the prequels.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
I,
even though I have such a nostalgia for the first one, we got Liam
Mhm.
Neeson and whatnot, and Darth Maul, double
Darth
bladed
Maul.
lightsaber. You got Jar Jar.
Jar Jar. Yep.
Yes,
I
Darth
love,
Darth Jar Jar.
oh yeah. Yeah. Have you seen there's a couple videos now on YouTube of people clipping stuff together, like him hand force waving and stuff,
Oh
like
yeah,
in the Senate throne room.
yeah. There's
Yeah.
actually legit theories about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. The internet's crazy with it. And they're very believable, spooky.
Well, I think George Lucas added more fuel to that fire because I think he had said at one point that his intention was to use Jar Jar a lot more in the episode 2 and episode 3 of
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars,
And the backlash.
potentially as even as a villain, but because of the backlash, yeah, he's just
Yeah.
kind of yeah,
Wow. And if Ahmed Best ever hears it, hey, thanks. Good job.
yes,
Yeah, I love Jar Jar, and my grandmother took me to see Episode 1 multiple times, and she's always said to this day her favorite character is Jar Jar, so I'll always love him.
yeah. I mean, he was kind of the comedic relief in a sense, the court jester
Yeah,
kind of character.
yeah,
It didn't bother me as much as it bothered other people, I guess. But
yeah.
I
Well,
I understand the critique though.
yeah, I understand the adults being annoyed, but I was, gosh, 99. I was 6. Yeah, I was 6. So yeah, heck yeah, Jar Jar.
Yeah. So you were 6 in '99. Let's see. In '99, I would have been. Wow, I think I would have also been 6.
Yeah, yeah, we're the same age. I think we learned about that at Best Buy actually.
Yeah. Now you say that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. Crazy.
yeah, man. Were
Yeah.
you as in awe in the movie theater and at the lightsaber fight when the double
For
blade popped out?
well, I was a little young. I didn't see it in the movie theater.
Oh no, okay.
I don't think it was till the second one maybe that I saw it in the movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
So
Cool, cool,
um,
cool.
yeah. Well, hey. Anyway, speaking of The Empire Strikes Back,
Yes, Empire.
yeah, for me, I would sum it up as, it takes a groundbreaking first film and manages to improve upon nearly every aspect. The darker, more mature tone allows for more layered and complex storytelling, which in turn allows for the better performances and story arcs to venture down more challenging paths that don't necessarily lead to a happy ending, which I think is kind of cool that, a big movie like this, especially the second movie in a trilogy and a franchise, well, I'll leave it as trilogy, I guess,
Hmm.
can have an ending like that, and everybody was so up in arms at the time because how can you not have a happy ending, right? How can the heroes not win?
Right.
But I think it's super fascinating, super cool that it wasn't just this clean cut happy ending because the whole movie isn't like that. So it makes sense, and
Hmm.
to me, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite science fiction film of all time, and one of the best movie sequels ever made,
Yeah,
hands
man.
down.
For sure. Agreed.
Yes. So, who is your movie MVP? It could be one of the characters, it could be someone behind the camera, actor. Who is your movie MVP?
Man, I can even go behind the camera, huh?
Anybody.
Kirshner
Yeah.
Kirshner's huge, man. He came on and really knocked it out of the park because A New Hope's incredible. I love it. Return of the Jedi is incredible. I love it. But there was just something about Empire, and I feel like it was really the director, you know?
He is in charge
So,
of everything. He is the one running the show, technically.
yeah,
You know,
I'd say MVP goes to that gentleman on that one.
absolutely. I am going to pick a character out of left field. I'm going to pick Frank Oz as Yoda
Awesome.
because I
Yep.
feel like without Yoda, this movie just doesn't fully work. You know, like
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much to be learned and so much good content, good stuff. I mean, Yoda as a character himself. I mean, this is the first time we ever get to see Yoda. And funny story: George Lucas actually wanted Jim Henson to voice Yoda, who is he's the voice actor who he's the actor who performs
The Muppets.
portrays
Or
Kermit
Kermit. Yeah, yeah.
from the Frog from the Muppets, but he couldn't do it because he was doing a different movie. So that he recommended Frank Oz, who does the voice of Miss Piggy, like we mentioned earlier. So it worked out pretty well, I think, for all parties involved. But Frank Oz got to do it. But yeah, I mean Yoda. I mean, there's a comedic aspect to him too that was really interesting.
Oh,
Like
totally.
he's like a little pet. He's digging through all the stuff, getting in trouble, and when
Yeah.
with R2, he's like he grabs a stick, mine, mine,
Mine,
mine.
mine, mine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much good stuff, and then the dime he can turn and be like, no, he's not ready. I can't do this, and you know,
Yeah. It's almost like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing because he's this annoying, crazy swamp man. And then again, he turns into this Jedi Grand Master, all calm and collected. It's just this weird dynamic that happens.
yeah, yeah, very true.
So, yeah, very good.
So yeah, my pick is Yoda. How about scene
Very good.
MVP? What's your favorite scene in this movie?
My favorite scene in this movie is it's when they're the lightsaber fight. I know there's probably a lot more like deeper scenes in the film, maybe, but when Luke and Darth are fighting down below, like right when that jump scare pops up, when stuff gets really real for Luke, and you're wondering like, oh man, is Luke gonna lose? Because this movie's been really weird and dark, you know. So I think that scene right when you're wondering like, is Luke gone? And then he flies out the window, and you have that little time to think like, oh Lord, what's going on? That whole part there is just awesome for me.
Yeah, so well constructed. Yeah, I have to agree. That lightsaber battle is also my favorite, and I think there's just something about lightsaber fights to me that, I mean, look, I understand. There's a lot of other fascinating aspects to Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Andor is currently exploring this right now
Yep.
with everything else and whatnot, the rebellion and the empire and all that. There's a
Yep.
lot of really good stuff that's not really Jedi and lightsaber focused, but to me, it's always been the most interesting, fascinating thing. With the Mandalorian kind of coming in a close second, but
Yep.
there's also Jedi inspired things that happen in that show too. So, to
Right.
me, there's just something about a lightsaber battle that's just and just the Force and mystical everything behind it is just it's so fascinating to me and awesome. So when you have such a great battle between Vader and Luke, and like you mentioned, you're like, oh, I don't know if Luke's going to win this time. He also didn't
Yeah.
really he also didn't really like advance that far in his training,
No.
and he's going against Vader, like the ultimate,
Yep.
So like that's not a recipe for success, And I mean, he does his best. He holds his own. I mean, he probably does better than he should. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's my favorite scene in the movie.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, Vader's toying with him, you know. Vader could squash him, you know. If you watch the Obi-Wan series, you can see what kind of crazy stuff he's capable of. So I think that's pretty obvious in that scene too, that Vader's just kind of toying with Luke the whole time.
Yeah, up until the very end, I think he starts to get annoyed. You can kind of tell, and that's when he really turns it on and
When
really,
when he slices his arm, yeah.
yeah, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So good stuff, good stuff.